hear or see anything. Might have some internet failure here.
Oh. You still with us?
I'm still here, but I can't, everything's frozen up. I can't see or hear you.
Oh.
The whole Liam Kumar Day effect. Not really happened.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendon all, he said he could make it.
Don't think this whole Phil, credit to the guy, he always manages to do well what he has to. He is a shocking person right now. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-Viv.
No, my life from Rashad Mendon.
Right, you go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, but just before we do get into it, we were having a little bit of technical issues in the intro there. Chris, can you still hear and see us, or is it still...
I can hear things now, I think.
Yeah.
You can see me, I might be on delay a little bit. But...
I think, yeah, there might be a little bit of lagging, but you're coming through pretty clearly, so it's all good. So, yeah, we'll continue assuming the show is working, so that's good. Hello and welcome, everyone, to another episode of the LOC Report. Yeah, it is the penultimate episode of the year, effectively, because, yeah, semi-finals in the books. We've obviously got Credit Ball 15 to preview for you, and so we'll be back next week with the recaps, the award winners, because the things on that still hasn't come out either. And yeah, that will be that for another year of LSU's football. But yeah, before we get into all that, we've got Chris again. How's it going, Chris?
Yeah, it's going alright. Say, it seems to have gone quite quickly this year. I can't believe it's nearly 2024. You know.
Yeah.
2 days from now, mad, absolutely mad. So where is that year gone? I do not know.
No, you're absolutely right. It does feel like the draft was just yesterday, and then 17 weeks of fantasy football go by in an absolute blink. It seems like that when you're in the middle of it, I'll tell you, it does not feel like it. So. But yeah, no, without further ado then, we'll get to the recaps of the last couple of two of the last 3 games of the 2023 LEC season then. Final that we previewed last week, which was Gridiron Gang against the Dream Team. I didn't say in the preview, but both of these teams obviously seeking to go on and potentially win their second Corona Bowl. We would have guaranteed either a new winner or a 2-time winner of the Corona Bowl this year with how the playoff brackets went. And both of us picked my team for this one, Chris, but it did indeed go the same way as the reverse fixture did earlier in the season, in the way of the Dream Team, 112 to 99, which takes Viv to a 11-7 record against me, I believe, all time now. And gives Viv his 4th playoff win of all time, I believe. I think that's right. So he's up to 4. I think I did that right. Viv does it again, Chris. There's a lot we'll go through here, I'm sure, but the one thing that we will all be looking at in this game, and it's right at the bottom of the screen, and you can see it, the 40 points from Amari Cooper right at the bottom, which was definitely the difference between a victory and a loss either side for both these teams in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Just at the time where you didn't want that sort of thing to happen. Yes, it happens, and yeah, franchise record for Amari Cooper on the day. Not as if anyone predicted that would be the case, I have to say. Would have been very difficult to do so, but yeah, that is certainly the sticking point for you there. And I think that otherwise, the guys that you'd expect to come out with the points have come out. Alan came out with the points. Njoku, the spot start there, wasn't the problem, funnily enough.
No. Yeah.
McCaffrey, Montgomery again, but yeah, it's the supporting cast. Other than that, Waddle and Pacheco obviously banged up and whatnot on the day, and just not delivering the goods. 99 points, still a very good score for this time of the year, but yeah, not quite enough to get across the line. Whilst on the other side, we said that Viv's receivers have to come up trumps, and that's what happened. Solids from Matt Stafford. Obviously, Lamb had that ridiculous long touchdown in the game as well. But we've got to look at Breece Hall down there.
Yeah.
31 points when it matters. Be in that offense. That is a crazy score in any game, but in a playoff game, it's most valuable. So yeah, I'd say to find that 12 points, you had it, but yeah, just didn't quite come up again for you this time. And Viv continues to the Corona Bowl with this team that just keeps on churning out the results.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it. I think really, actually, Breece Hall absolutely saved Viv's bacon here. Whilst if I'd have played Amari Cooper, I would have, as you say, rolled on and in quite impressive fashion with a 129-point score. But yeah, Breece Hall here is accounted for. I mean, you talk about your 2 or 3 quarterback scores, which you could argue Lamb effectively got one being near enough 20 points, but it wasn't actually the receivers. I don't think that it wasn't the receivers that won this one for Viv, because 28 points, 29 points between Lamb and Hill actually isn't really that good of a day considering what they've been all season long. He would have been relying on what they've been, the number 1 receivers, number 2 receivers. That's been probably par for the course, but it's not certainly been feast or famine, and it was obviously a feast day, a very good feast day at that, and it absolutely needed to be that, because like you say, the margin's 13 points, so if he's chipping in with even 15 points, having a decent day, the result goes the other way. So yeah, it was absolutely and I kind of called out in the previews that I think it would be more about the running backs for Viv that would decide the result of this game, because 2 of the 3 here didn't hit, and I expected at least 2 of the 3 to not hit. It's obviously that Hall has just exploded, and you kind of said it on my side as well. With David Njoku, he wasn't the problem. Whilst the final spot in the lineup was between him and Amari Cooper, obviously that is ultimately what lost it. I was obviously understandably very, very annoyed at myself at the time of it happening, but having a few days and things and letting it breathe after the fact, and you kind of absolutely said it. Like, nobody predicted Amari Cooper was going to blow up for 40 points. Nobody predicted he would get a franchise. No, I mean, not that anybody would, but for reference, even if he'd scored 23 points in this game, I still would have lost this game. It's just one of those complete outlier crazy things that it's just annoying that it was a coin flip decision between those two. A peek behind the veil, actually chatting with Jeff and stuff over the holidays and things, he will see in the recap, but he obviously picked up Trey McBride. He actually said he was between Trey McBride and David Njoku of who to pick up on the week. If he picked up Njoku, I would not have picked up Trey McBride and played him over Amari Cooper. So again, it's like the second time in a few weeks for me, we go back to looking at what happened with Zach Moss when I got him, played him, and Montgomery does slightly better and he would have got me the points that won. It's just crazy the butterfly effects that you can have in this game, and that's kind of the margins that it can come down to sometimes, because again, that directly changes the result. But I did get it wrong, and in hindsight I kind of looked at it, and I kind of went more with the, I suppose, 4 stable option with David Njoku, because he's obviously been he really actually had been the top weapon since Joe Flacco took over, above Amari Cooper. I had been outscoring quite a lot, and yes, Amari Cooper scored 41 points. That's a ridiculous score, but just for reference as well, that's actually, if you combined all of his points back to week 9, he scored more in the last week than he had done in that entire stretch. And again, I appreciate some of that was with DTR and PJ Walker and things, so it's not quite like for like, but even with Flacco, he'd not actually really been setting the world on fire. He had a 5.7 against the Jags, again on a day when Njoku did really well, and the week before, you can't quite see it there, against Chicago he got 16.9, but I don't know if you watched the week or not, Chris, but you might recall it was a pretty fluky, correct, like 40-yard touchdown, so they got him the majority of those points. So, and Houston's pass defense hasn't actually been a slouch on the year. They've got some pretty good cornerbacks and things there. That, in fact, the reason that I stuck with Njoku, because as I said, coin flip decision, they had been an absolute cake matchups for tight ends all year long, and all of the kind of logic and the numbers stuff pointed to David Njoku absolutely being a smarter play. But we, of course, know fantasy doesn't always work that way. And if you talked about straight ceiling versus ceiling, any day of the week, Amari Cooper ceiling is above what David and Joker could have done. But like I say, nobody predicted that 41. But yeah, it's just how it goes in fantasy sometimes. Like I say, I've had a few days to breathe. It does feel like, from my perspective, and well, actually, no, tell you what, we'll cover that off that bits when we get to the season recaps instead of dwelling more on this game. But yeah, credit to Viv as well, because obviously this is his first game without his starting quarterback for much of the year, Justin Herbert. He obviously played Matthew Stafford, who got 25. Flacco did outperform it a little bit, but it was still a good decision there. And got reasonably good points from the Jets defense there as well. So as you say, Viv rolls on. We'll get to the other semi-final game here quickly, which was You Are Gold versus Great Scott. And Chris, we need one of these for you. And we need one of these for me. Because we split on this one. You locked up Great Scott, I locked up Your Gold, and Great Scott took this one quite decisively, although not necessarily with their own score, 102-57. Yeah, just a bad day at the office for Your Gold. But, we'd kind of been saying this is the kind of weeks we'd seen of late. We thought they were a bit pretenders all season long. We even said I think in one of the debate corners, it might have even been last week's one, who's the least likely to win it, and You Are Gold was kind of unanimously the answer. And apparently, Chris, we do know something about fantasy after all, because that did come to fruition. Looking at the history, I think this is the second time these two played. They've split now. You Are Gold did take the first one of these, I remember. Yeah, it was a really low score for him all the way back in week 2. But Great Scott picks this one up, despite Trevor Lawrence having a bad day and getting injured in the game. But it doesn't matter, because as we've talked about all season long, they've not really had the quarterback play, but the rest of the team absolutely been there. And even though they didn't have Chase, and the guy they picked in Trey McBride for Chase didn't really do much either, didn't matter. Still got 102 points, Chris.
Absolutely, and so this is the result that we both predict. Well, I predicted last week, obviously.
In fact, I did actually say if Lawrence plays in this one, I would back off, because he had Russell Wilson at the time, who hilariously did outperform him quite significantly.
Yeah.
But I didn't officially remove the lock. So anyway, continue.
Indeed. Well, there you are. So no, it was for me. You Are Gold was this kind of team all year where there was weeks where it would be boom, and weeks where it would be bust, and this just happens to be the bust week.
Yeah.
To have got this far based on the luck that he had for the most of the season, I think is the result.
Yeah.
For Great Scott, it's been pretty consistent throughout the last 5 or 6 weeks, and though quarterback may be a bit of an issue, I say skill positions certainly aren't, and that trio of Mostert, White, and Gibbs have really been rock solid over that period as well. Very close as well to being a full house on double-digit scores too, which is always a good thing to see. So yeah, to be quite frank, I think there lies in Great Scott one of the more consistent teams that we've seen over the course of the season, or certainly the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And in the Dream Team, it's been one that's been fluctuating, so it should be an interesting final next week. But yeah, 2 very good scores across the board for the 2 finalists, and one that's quite heartening to see. But the fact that Great Scott can churn these 100 plus point scores out at this time of the year is obviously an excellent marker as to how they're going to get on.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, just going back to Your Gold as well, look, the 57 does look bad here, but to Ollie's defense, when Brock Purdy, a guy who has been absolutely, probably actually the best player for, I don't think that's going out on a limb saying he's probably been the best player across the season for You Are Gold. He only put up 2.4 points this one, and everyone saw the horror show that he had to get there against Baltimore. He had one of these back earlier in the season. It's going to happen with the, in the Shanahan kind of system quarterback style every now and then, but it's just annoying because you can probably bet your bottom dollar, certainly against Washington this week, that he'll bounce back, assuming that he's back and playing and healthy. But yeah, if he has kind of a more typical performance of what he had, look, it's still not a brilliant score. He's still going to lose this game, but it is kind of more of the lower but still fairly consistent You Are Gold team that we've seen all season long. Speaking of injuries as well, you actually just mentioned going back to the other game, you kind of touched on it with Jalen Waddle and Isaiah Pacheco on my team as well, that they went down injured during the game. probably wouldn't have turned the result with where they got injured in the game and what they were doing to that point, but you never know. And yeah, Trevor Lawrence again in this one. But we'll talk about all of this in the previews for Great Scott, because yeah, there's going to be some interesting points on that. So that is it for the recaps. There isn't really much point in doing it in the league news section this week, because we'll obviously talk about injuries and players that have been picked up by the Corona Bowl teams in the previews. Chris, we don't have too much time due to my timings today, and Chris needs to get off. So we'll maybe come back into debate corner at the end if we have time. But instead, we'll just move straight on to Corona Bowl 15, which features the Dream Team vying for their second title in terms of actual number of appearances. I did open up the accolades here just to check. This will be Viv's third appearance in the Corona Bowl, and then for Jeff, obviously coming off fresh off his second playoff win in his first season, appearance in the Corona Bowl in his very first season. Nothing to sniff at there at all. So here we go, the preview of Corona Bowl 15. Big one, a New Year's Corona Bowl 15 for everyone, and for us we'll be enjoying it, but for the two taking part, it may not be, well, it could be a very happy New Year's depending what side the results go. But yeah, Great Scott take on the Dream Team here. As Chris just said, a case of boom and bust versus someone who's been fairly consistent all year long. What way is it going to go? The projections currently say 105 to 77. However, Great Scott doesn't currently have a quarterback in the lineup. However, the projections would still almost certainly be in favour of the Dream Team. The scores on the doors as of right now are also 19 to 16 in favour of the Dream Team as well, courtesy of Breece Hall, 19, and then 16 points from the Browns defence there on the other side. In terms of lineup for the Dream Team, they are unchanged, I believe, since last week at the moment, so they are going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. Then on the other side for Great Scott, Demarcus Robinson currently comes into the lineup, and I believe that is the only change, dropping Trey McBride from the team entirely, so they are also going with 30 personnel. 3 running backs, 2 receivers, but as I say, no quarterback in the lineup at the moment. The history of this matchup all time, they've only faced each other twice, because they shared a division. They split those games 1-1. Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting Corona Bowl for a number of reasons, because like you said, Chris, what Dream Team is going to turn up? Will there be boom? Will there be bust? Who will it be? On the other side, who will be the starting quarterback for Great Scott? And will they have Jamar Chase back from his shoulder injury? Because he is practicing again. I think in terms of injuries outside of the quarterback calamity that Great Scott finds himself in, with Russell Wilson being benched and Lawrence being ruled out with a shoulder injury. There's a few interesting things going on here, Chris. Do you want to give us your 2 cents?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I haven't got long.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give my 2 pennies worth and then check out.
That's fine.
Before I do so, I wish you all a happy New Year, and I wish the whole teams the best.
Oh, and that is fun. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I think you're coming back.
Getting weak. You know, it's great that they've got 16 points on the board, and I think that is something they can cling on to. But the fact of the matter is, the defensive matchups they've got this week are horrible. 2 guys playing Dallas, 1 running back playing Baltimore, don't like that, and 1 guy playing New Orleans, we don't like that.
I don't think the Dallas matchup is that bad. I don't think not with how that defense has been playing the last month. They've always been soft against the run. Yeah,
away from home
Yeah.
this time of the year, rabid Dallas fan.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. But the quarterback is the number 1 issue here.
Yeah.
And the fact that you don't have a premier starting quarterback at this time of the year, because of the various reasons that you mentioned, is absolutely the worst. The worst timing that you could possibly come across for those 2 guys. Do I think that they still have a very solid team? Absolutely. But do I think that they can? Do I think that as a result of the defensive matchups this week, it's going to be toned down a little bit? I do think that. Whilst on the other side, aside from Hill playing in that Baltimore game, where again I'm not as a pass receiver, I'm not actually that bothered about that. I think that if they're able to run, they're going to use Hill a lot. But again, through Lamb, I think that's a good matchup there too. Singletary playing Tennessee, got nothing to play for. Etienne, especially if Lawrence isn't playing, you'd think would be used a reasonable amount versus Carolina, who again demoralised, nothing to play for. 18 and a half from Breece Hall was great, but the 49ers playing Washington there, who could be playing Jacoby Brissett on one leg, could be playing Sam Howell pick machine. That's a great defensive matchup in the final. No matter, obviously, Matt Stafford's playing at the moment. I'm not sure that he's really going to bring Nick Mullins in. Obviously, Flacco scored 28 points yesterday, keeping on rolling. But there's no reason why Stafford can't do that as well. So yeah, I think it puts the Dream Team in a very firm position to put up a solid score. Obviously, he's 2 points ahead already, but that's with the skill position with that 49ers D still to go. For me, I think we've written Great Scott off every opportunity this year, and those three running backs are still absolutely elite. But yeah, not having a quarterback could be the issue here. It puts the momentum in the Dream Team's favour, and that's where I'm going to go in this final. I think the Dream Team have got the skill position players in the right times, in the right matchups, give or take,
sure,
to perform well in this. So yeah, but it's been a valiant effort from Great Scott. It's just unfortunate that it's all happened at the same time this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'll let you drop off now while I talk a bit more about this. But no, thank you for hopping on and doing it quickly. And yeah, as you said, Chris, very much the same back to you. Happy New Year. Look forward to seeing you again at football, especially, and then obviously we'll hopefully be watching some playoff games and stuff together, and obviously the Super Bowl
absolutely,
as well when it gets to
absolutely.
that. So, and obviously we'll have a podcast for you next week. So anyway,
of course,
get going, Chris. Enjoy dinner. Thank you for joining us again. And
thank you. Take
care, Chris. Yeah, so I'll cover off my 2 cents and give my feedback of what Chris has just said. Then, so we can blow up the whole screen here now that Chris has dropped off. So Chris did do a pretty good breakdown of this game. I tend to agree with his points. I think the Dream Team is certainly the safer call. Again, the fact that the Breece Hall has gotten him the 19 points gives him that really, really good floor to work from, like it did against me last week, basically, as well. Oh, hey, Viv is there as well. Sorry, I didn't see your comments there. Viv, thanks for watching along, and I'll make sure Chris knows that you said Happy New Year. So yeah, that 19 points for Breece Hall is a big boon to Viv's team, but I do just worry about the same things that happened against me last week. I still think he's going to need those two receivers to come through big time for him to seal this game up. CeeDee Lamb really should have a good day against Detroit, because their pass D absolutely sucks. As Chris said, they're at home there as well, so that's not really a question. It's just, again, what we're going to see from Hill, because he did play last week. I'm not convinced he was fully healthy. And the who were they playing again? Dallas did a fairly good job of skimming away and shutting him down. Marlon Humphrey, the pass defense, is not as talented as the Dallas defense, I don't think. But with Jalen Waddle not playing, I wonder if they can. They've got a pretty ferocious front. If they can handle the run game, and then they can just focus on Tyreek Hill. I do worry what that means potentially for Miami this week. Obviously, Stafford's been a guy that's coming through big time for Viv lately as well. Going across the country to the Giants, again, this is a very up and down defense. We don't know what we're going to see from them. Stafford has been absolutely cooking of late with Nakua and Cup playing well. Obviously, Kyren Williams back there as well. So the smart money would to say he would do that again. So it's really hard to poke holes in the Dream Team side this week. But then you do come to Devin Singletary and Travis Etienne. Now, on paper, the matchup for Etienne is a good one. Chris, I know he said that Carolina had nothing to play for, but they're with an interim coach. You kind of see this with teams that get interim coaches and players obviously fighting for jobs next year. It does kind of change the dynamic a little bit. They've been pretty feisty the last couple of weeks. They gave the Packers a good game last week, and the Jags are just terrible at the moment. They're playing awful football. They're a team that's trying to vie for the playoffs, but they're just, the arrow is down. Etienne's not playing as much. I wonder if he's even fully healthy. And they've obviously not got Trevor Lawrence here, so I do worry about that. And much the same for Devin Singletary. Tennessee's run defense has been fairly good all season long. There are at home Houston, so that does change the dynamic a bit. But Singletary, again, I don't know if he's just someone you want to rely on. They will have Stroud back, I think, so that obviously does help there as well. At the bottom, Bass against New England should be fine. Then the Niners D against Washington, probably going to be a smash, like Chris said. Jacoby Brissett on one leg, or somehow it's not great. If Brissett plays, that they have looked a lot better with him under center in the 2 games that he came in relief. But this Niners team is coming off a very ugly loss, so they're going to be wanting to put a statement out there. So it could be one of those games. But again, it's cross country, so it's a tough one. It does set up very, very nicely here for Viv, I must say. That's Viv's team. So we'll go to the other side of the board now for Great Scott. Like Chris said, he was worried about the matchups. Personally, I'm not too concerned outside of Raheem Mostert playing against Baltimore and Baltimore. That would be the one that I'd be a bit worried about. The other guys there, I have no concerns. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, as I said, the Dallas defense, it's good, but I don't think it's great. It's been exposed a bit of late. Yes, they're at home, but this is a game Detroit fresh off coming up winning in division. The Dallas are kind of locked in a bit to a degree to their playoff seeding now as well, so they can't get the division or anything like that. They can't improve from the 5th seed, basically. So, I wonder what kind of game we'll see there. White's been great. As Chris said, he has said multiple times, he's getting the volume, he's playing really well. I don't think this New Orleans run defense is particularly good as well. The Bucs are playing at home, and we do usually get some interesting games between the Bucs and the Saints here. Jimmy Gibbs against Dallas, going back to that again, the run D is not great. Gibbs has been a start, much at my expense, obviously, with Montgomery. He has firmly taken over the 1A in the backfield, and again, he should have a good game here. As Chris said, the 16 points from the Jets there are nice. I firmly believe he's going to have Chase, and he's going to play Chase, and Jamar Chase is playing Chiefs defense, who have been very good at times, and L'Jarius Sneed's had a pretty good season overall. But this Chiefs team, as we know, they're just not playing well of late. The Bengals are still trying to get that playoff spot. So I wonder, I don't know, can Bengals go into KC and do something crazy like the Raiders did last week? It's Jamar Chase after all, and there's some irony in this. Obviously, Viv had Jamar Chase in his rookie season as well. I think that might have been even the year that Viv won it. So it could be a very painful day for Viv playing against that in that regard. I would fully expect him to play him if he's available, obviously, over DeMarcus Robinson. If he does go, we'll talk about how it is at the moment. If he does go with DeMarcus Robinson, I get it, because he's been getting a touchdown a game. I think he's on a crazy streak. The Giants defense obviously isn't anything to really be scared of, and obviously if they're paying attention to Puka and Cooper Kupp, that's why DeMarcus Robinson has been having success. He's been usurped my beloved Tutu Atwell from earlier in the season, and he's actually been playing quite well in the role. But it really does come down to, I think, this game, because I think the skill positions here can probably outperform, to be fair, assuming Chase is in there, whatever Viv has on the other side. Not to say Viv's skill positions won't have a good day, because I think they will, but I think Great Scott's skill positions will outperform them to a degree. So then it comes down to, how much is the Niners D going to do? What's Matt Stafford going to do? And then what is the quarterback of Great Scott going to do? I think Stafford's going to have an okay game. He's not a quarterback that blows up. So you're looking at maybe mid to low 20s. Possibly teens if he only throws the 1 touchdown or a couple of touchdowns and low amount of yardage. Niners D is the hard one to call about how good they could be. But yeah, it really comes down to the quarterback here for Great Scott. On the roster at the moment, he has Geno Smith and Jarrett Stidham, an unenviable choice. Geno Smith playing home against the Pittsburgh D, that's pretty good. Obviously, they're still trying to play for a playoff spot themselves. And then Jarrett Stidham, in his first start, I know this Chargers team just likes to go. If Great Scott plays Jarrett Stidham, that crazy. We've seen this Denver offense all year long. We know that Russ hasn't been great, but that would just be a crazy dice roll for me, because we saw the Bills struggle against the Chargers a bit, more than a bit last week. It's now that they've got rid of Brandon Staley, that the players may be playing a bit more again, coaching a little bit different. I'd be extremely worried. I would not expect what Ada O'Connell did to them the weeks before. So given the 2 choices there, Geno Smith is obviously the one. Looking at what's out there, it's a pretty bleak bleak landscape at quarterback at the moment. I suspect Viv adding Nick Mullins was probably certainly more about a block for Great Scott, but that block doesn't actually matter now because Jaron Hall's going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings against the Packers, and again, I don't think that's really an option here in the Final Four, Jeff, because it would be an absolute dice roll. He looked decent in that first quarter he played for the Vikings against the Falcons until he got that concussion, but it'd be a huge dice roll to just roll him out there in the Corona Bowl. So what we're looking at here, Jacoby Brissett against the Niners. Sorry, the screen's not loaded correctly there. Jake Browning away to the Kansas City Chiefs. Gardner Minshew against the Raiders at home. Then again, you've got a lot of backups for Levis at Houston. It's just not a pretty landscape. It's going to be tough. If he can find the one of these guys that hits, because it always happens every week. Some of these guys obviously do hit. If he finds the one that does hit, credit to Jeff. I believe that he will. I believe that he will. I don't know what Jeff is going to do. It's obviously not a good not a good landscape about that. I think I know what I would do if I was in his situation. I'm not going to speak it into existence because I just want to see if it unfolds, or if it doesn't unfold, I'll mention it on the recap next week. Either way, but I believe Great Scott has had a darling season to this point. The skill positions have arguably been the top 5 when available, the best in all of the league, above my team, above the Dream Team. Certainly in the second half of the season with Jamal Gibson being more the focal point and Rashad White getting more easy running matchups to play against. This is going to be a fascinating game, but I just have a gut feeling. Viv's team, we've seen it being inconsistent. I don't think all of those players are going to come through again. I think, like we saw last week, obviously Hall bailed them out to a degree. Sorry, didn't bail them out. Hall brought the big win for the Dream Team there. But I don't think they're all going to hit. I think all of Great Scott's will hit, despite some matchups. Maybe Raheem Mostert doesn't, but can he fall in the end zone and get some yards? Probably. If he gets that quarterback choice right, and I think he will, because I think it's only going to take 20 plus points, I think he's going to do it, and I'm going to lock up Great Scott. But really, it's a coin flip game for me. It's such a close game. I don't think the projections, obviously with the quarterback notwithstanding, really do it justice. But it's going to be a fascinating watch for Corona Bowl 15 on New Year's Eve. And that does bring us to the end of the show. So like I said, we will be back next week with the Corona Bowl recap, 15 recap. We'll also do the season recap. So the 2 other semi-final teams, didn't want to do that today just for the timings, like I said, and obviously the 2 teams in the Corona Bowl here as well. We'll do the award winners, so it'll be a nice end of season show. So with that, have a very happy New Year's with whatever you're doing tomorrow, everybody. Best of luck in your matchups, and I don't really care because no one's playing me this week. Goodbye, everybody.